Folks, Chumash and Rashi, the Torah portion, Shemini, we are the sixth reading. And today, we learn about kosher. Let's get right into it. It's a bit lengthy. It's me. Okay. We are the book of Vayikra, Leviticus, chapter 11, verse 1. V'yidaber Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aaron. And Hashem spoke, to Moshe and to Aaron, Lamar, Aleim, saying to them. So Rashi says, El Moshe ve'el Aaron doesn't mean he spoke to both of them. Actually, LeMoshe Amar, he said it to Moshe, Sheyemer LaAaron, that he should say it to Aaron. And he didn't speak directly with Aaron. Lamar Aleihim, to say to them, who's the them then? Sheyemer LaElazar v'Isamar. Them is Aaron's sons. Elazar v'Isamar, the two sons that are left over. Or perhaps it means to say to the entire Jewish people. When it says in the following verse, Dabril b'nei Israel, speak to the children of Israel, so that's the reference that you have to say this message to all of the children of Israel. Right? That's what that reference is. So then what does it mean to say to them? Who's the them? If in the next verse it's saying, speak to the entirety of the Jewish people. Right? So that means Laban to his sons, Lazol of his summer. So this is teaching telling us the way things were taught to the Jewish people. There's one element maybe missing here, I think. So first taught it to Aaron, then he taught it to Elazar and Isamar, then he taught it to the elders, and then to all of Bnei Israel. Here the elders actually, interesting. Okay, so probably don't learn it from here. Okay, Dabril Bnei Israel, well, speak to the children of Israel, or saying, Zeis HaChaya, this is the Chaya, the creature, Asher Teichlu, that you can eat, Mikola Behema, from all of the animals, Asher Al Haaretz, that are on the land. Dabril Bnei Israel, Rashi, Eskulam Hishva, he made them all equal. God drew no distinction between Moshe, Aaron, Elazar, and Isamar. Right? In other words, Dabra means speak in plural form. So it's plural form. Rashi too. Right? Meaning that they're messengers of God to the children of Israel regarding this statement. Lefi shehushvu b'demima, because they're equal in their silence. Aha. Right. This is coming after the passing, right? It's in the same Torah portion as the passing of Dasan v'Aviram, not Dasan v'Aviram, sorry, Nadav and Avihu, the two sons of Aaron, right, that they passed on, right, coming into the holies. So what's happening over here is that Moshe Elazar are joined. Moshe Elazar are joined with Aaron in accepting the decree of the deaths of Nadav and Avihu. Remember, it says Vayidam Aaron, that Aaron was silent when he heard about his son that passed away. In other words, he accepted the decree from heaven. He didn't say, why me? So therefore, the plural over here, that they should speak, right? Because it's Moshe that speaks. He's the one who's the teacher of the Jewish people. So it says, Daber el b'nei Israel, that you should speak right? In singular form, but it's plural form. So they're all equalized over here. All four of them, Moshe, Aaron, Elazar, and Isamar, right? Because the Hebrews, there's a Malkam, Bi'ava, because they accepted the decree from God, Bi'ahava, with love. So now they're given the opportunity here that this is a teaching that they will give to the Jewish people. Interesting. Okay. Zeis HaChaya, this is the life form. Loshen Chaim. It's a term of life, right? Chaya means like Am Yisrael Chai. Chaya is a feminine form, right? It's also a name, Chaya. Lefishi Yisrael Dvukim B'Mokim. Why? What's the why is it related here to life? Because the Jewish people cleave to God, and they are fit to be alive. Therefore, God separated them from impurity because they're aliyah mitzvahs, and He decreed upon them commandments. In other words, they have to perform these commandments. But to the nations of the world, He didn't tell them that they have to do this. Right? They don't have to eat. They're not commanded. For this compared to a doctor, he's a medrash. It's like a doctor went to visit the ill. Okay, next. Rashi doesn't give. Okay, Zoisachaya. These are the life forms. Malamed, this teaches Shahaya Maisha Eiches Bechaya. What does Zois mean? Zois means this. This means this. He was pointing, showing them. Right? He was holding on to a creature, and showing them to the Jewish people, that this you can eat, and this you can't eat. And the verse, it says, as zed teichlu, that verse comes to teach us. In other words, in verse 9, this is verse 2. In verse 9, it's going to say again, the word this, right? What does that come to teach us? That even creeping creatures of the water, he actually held every specimen of each of the species, and he showed them. Even likewise, when it came to birds, that these are abomination from among the birds, and likewise with creepy crawling things, that this is impure for you. This is come to tell us that he showed them with each and every individual thing, like literally. Not all birds are unkosher. No, that which is kosher, that which is not unkosher, both. Zoisachaya continues Rashi. We call the behema from every animal. Malamed, this comes to teach you. Shabehema b'chal chaya. The verse starts off with the word chaya, which we said is a life form, but it's reference usually to a undomesticated animal, right? That they're full of life, right? Undomesticated. And behema is a domesticated animal. So this comes to teach us that an animal is included in the term of chaya of a beast, undomesticated. In other words, the term chaya over here is a more, like every word, depending on context, we can understand it in different ways. So chaya over here means a general term, rather a specific term of a undomesticated. It's a general term of life form creatures, living creatures, right? That's the point here. Okay, verse number 3. We got a truck. Kol mafreses parsa, any animal, kol, all, right? Animal. Actually doesn't say animal here yet, we'll say, that has a cloven hoof, The Shesas Shesa, and it is a parsais, and the hoof is completely split, right? Shesas Shesa. Shesas Shesa, meaning that it's separated, right? Split. Parsas, the hoof. Mila's Geira, and it also brings up its Geira, its Kad, Bahema in an animal. That you can eat. It needs these two signs, right? We all know famous. Mafresis, so the word mafresis, Ketarguma, the uncle says, Sidika, split. Parsa, hoof. So it's a split hoof. In Old French, plum. Shesa is shesa, separated with a split. So it's split, separated. Meaning it's separated from top to bottom. In other words, completely through. With two nails. Kitarguma, as Unkelis translates, matafle taflin, hoofed with hooves. Because you have animals that are split at the top, right, at the tip. But it's not completely divided completely through and through. Because the bottom, they are connected, right? Like a donkey is not split. Yeah. You can see in the picture over here, right? What you don't mind getting? Thank you. Mila's Gera, it brings up its cud. Mila Makia Ha'echam Imayao, it brings up and regurgitates the food from its innards. And returns it into its mouth to crush it and to grind it very finely. That's a mindless Gera. Gera, to recut Kach Shmoi, so it's its name. Yitin Liyos Migizras. Yitaken Liyos Migizras. Is that David? Yeah. Mayim Hanigarim, like waters that flow. Shu Nigzara Acher Hapeh, Targuma Pishra. Onkelos translates it. Pshara means dissolved, right? Means kad, meaning it's already food that's been dissolved. Take a booklet there. Or verse number 3 for the sixth day. Sha'al Yedei Hagera, through the kad process, the food dissolves and is softened. Bibahema, among the animals, Teva Yiserahi. This is a superfluous word. The Darsha, it's coming to expound. To permit eating of the fetus, animsa b'mei imai, which is found inside of its mother. This is among the animals. What was it? Of course, that's what we're talking about. Previous verse we already said among all the animals. Now, what do we have to say here? So among all animals, among means that is among means it's within the animal. So this verse is coming to tell us a fully formed fetus that could survive on its own is allowed to be eaten without ritual slaughter. Okay. How they get that exactly, not certain, but okay. Last Rashi in verse number 3. That you may eat, and not an impure animal. Bahadarahi, But isn't this already included in a negative commandment? And as we're going to see, assume there'll be a negative commandment you can't, right? Ella. So this verse is needed to make one liable, that you're violating a prohibition in two ways. You're transgressing a positive commandment together with a negative commandment. Why does the verse have to end off saying at the end of verse 3, this you may eat? Why? I mean, that's obviously, if it's kosher, so then this is the one you may eat. Why does it have to tell us that? Why is it commanding? Because it's commanding, therefore, that not when you would eat something that's not kosher, you're transgressing two things: the negative commandment of not eating it, which we're going to see later on in verse 8, and the positive commandment of that this is specifically what you should eat. Verse number 4. However, but this you may not eat. That which brings up its kad and has a split hoof as a gamal, the camel. Why? Because it does regurgitate its food. But it's not a completely split hoof. It's not a completely split hoof. Right? It's partially split, but not completely split. Therefore, it is impure for you. Verse number 5, es hashafan, and also the hyrex, it chews its cod, but it doesn't have a completely split hoof. It is impure for you. Nevis, and the hair, it also chews its cud. But doesn't have a completely split hoof. It is impure for you. So that was 3 of them. Now the 4th one, but a bit different, a chazir, the pig, because it does have split hooves. It does have a completely split hoof. But it doesn't regurgitate its cud. It is impure for you. Right? From their flesh you shall not eat, right? These 4 that we just enumerated, that have one of the 2 signs, but not both. And in their carcasses you shouldn't touch. It is impure for you.
3,500 years and no other exceptions.
Exactly. Rashi and 8. From their flesh you should not eat. I have only of these that are in the specific, that are impure, right? That are mentioned here. All the other impure animals, Tahara doesn't have any sign of impurity. How do I know that they're also prohibited? So you say a kal v'chomer, meaning from a light to a heavy. Right? What are these animals that we now just mentioned, the 4 of them? That they have some signs of purity, right? Either they choose their cut or they have split hooves, one of the 2. Asur that are forbidden. So all the more so would be those who do not have any sign at all. Right? So Rashi is just learning it out for us. That is what's called the Kal V'chomer, one of the 13 principles of how we learn out different laws. Sorry, I'm from.
You're saying that the Mikra is saying it clearly in Gimel. Well, what's right?
Oh, didn't. Oh, it clearly said these 4. So you might think that Torah is only coming to tell us these 4 that has one of the signs, that therefore that may be those who don't have any signs. How do you know? Torah. One second. Torah for the Ben Chomesh LaMikra, right? The 5-year-old said, "Well, what's with the rest of the animals?" So how do I know? Because that's called a limud. No. Gimel doesn't say that. How's Gimel say that? Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't say the negative. But it's not giving a negative. Where's the negative? Yeah, but it doesn't give the negative. That's a positive commandment, not a negative commandment. Where's the negative prohibition? Remember, we said there's two prohibitions that you're now transgressing. So maybe you're only transgressing one prohibition, the positive and not the negative. So that you need the kal v'chaymer. Mipsaram, al bsaram, concerning, it says mipsaram, concerning their flesh. Bahazara with a negative commandment. Like mipsar, you might think from their flesh, meaning only part of their flesh. No, Rashi says concerning their flesh, the entire flesh. And not concerning bones. The gidim are sinews, the karnaim and horns, the talofim and hooves. In other words, those things are
inedible. And
right.
The inedibles you produce.
So, yeah. V'nivlas loisigo, and their carcass don't touch it. Yochol, I might think, on the basis of this verse, Israel Muzarim al Magen Nevela, that the Israelites, non-Kohanim, are warned against and are forbidden to come in contact with the carcass of an impure animal. Talmud Leimar tells us otherwise. Emor el Kohanim and Parshas Emor. Later, it'll come in a few weeks. It says Kohanim Muzharim, that the Kohanim, only the priests alone, they're prohibited from making themselves impure by coming in contact with a corpse or here with a dead animal. Israel Muzharim, but the Israelites are not prohibited. So now you can say Kal v'chaymer as follows: Ma tumas meis. Just like in the case of impurity, when you come in contact with the dead, which is chamura, which is more severe, lo yizar el kohanim, that the kohanim are there, the only ones who are prohibited and are warned that they shouldn't come in contact with a corpse. That's a human corpse, right? When it comes a carcass of an animal that is less severe, local shekain. Does it not follow that all the more so that the Israelites are not prohibited? That's only the Kohanim are prohibited when it comes to, right? And not an Israelite. So obviously, when it comes to a carcass of an animal, that the Israelites are not prohibited. So then what does it come and tell us? Not to touch. Beragil means in the festival. In other words, when you're going to the festival, you're making aliyah to Yerushalayim during a holiday, then don't come in contact with a corpse because you need to be pure when you come to Yerushalayim to celebrate the holiday. Right? I hope you got that. And if you didn't, next year we'll learn it again. We got a lot to learn.
Play football?
Just don't get tackled on a corpse, on a carcass.
Football's pigskin.
It's not a carcass. That's not called a carcass. It's not a carcass. I know, but it's not a carcass. Right? And from this you shall eat from all that which is in the water. Anything that has fins, and has scales, that is in the water, the yamim, in the seas, and in the and then in the rivers, those you can eat. Rashi, Sinaper, Sheshat Bahem. The Sinaper, what are these? These are that helps them swim, right? They're fins. Kaskeses are scales. Clipping, these are shell-like parts. Hakavuyim boy that are set on the fish. Kameshan Emar, as it says here, that he's wearing an armor of scales. Number 10, we're trucking. There's a lot to learn. However, anything that doesn't have a fin, b'kaskesses and scales, b'yamim, in the waters, in the seas, yamim seas, in the rivers, and mikol sheretz, from any creeping creature, mayim of the water, mikol nefesh achaya, and from all living creatures, asher b'mayim, that live in the water. Sheketzim lachem, it is an abomination for you. Interesting, here you use the words abomination. Rashi picks up on that, right? Before it didn't say but an abomination. Sheketzu you, it'll be an abomination. And what does it mean? Meaning their admixture is also forbidden. If there's a mixture of enough of a forbidden matter, benais and tam, and that which gives flavor into the entire mixture, it is also a biblical commandment. And that's what it means over here. That's an abomination for you, even a mixture. Which is interesting. What does that mean? And when it comes to the non-kosher animal, it's not that way. Okay, and it'll be an abomination for you. From their flesh you shall not eat. So before we had a positive commandment, Rashi doesn't have to repeat it, right? It's just like we had by the animal. And now it's a negative commandment. You shall not eat. And their bodies shall be an abomination. Rashi in 11. It shall be an abomination for you. Lesser Allah Yeruvei him. Oh, I'm sorry. Number 10, I read the wrong one. Sheretz. The whole malka mashmai davar namuch means a low lying thing. Sherechesh binod that it creeps and it moves. Ala aretz on the earth, close to the earth's surface. Okay, that was in 10. I'm sorry. And here Rashi speaking sheket to you that it should be an abomination means on its mixture. Nipsarim ena muzhar. So and 11, the second Rashi, from their flesh, ena muzhar, the prohibition from eating is all san pirin with regards to fins, ve'al ha'tzamayis, and with regards to the bones. And you're not prohibited from eating, in other words, the fins and their bones.
Like saying you're allowed to eat stone.
Because here it says, so it's interesting. Here he's saying from its flesh. We had by the animal also said mipsaram from their flesh, but Rashi didn't express. He said, "Oh yeah, the same idea." In other words, mi means from. From means from the flesh, meaning not all the flesh. Because if it meant all the flesh, it should say all the flesh. It should just say psaram. Mi psaram means from their flesh, meaning part of their flesh, not all the flesh. Yes, and if Lasam Tishaket say you when their carcass shall be an abomination. Ladabas Yavuchishin gnats Nisananim that are strained out of water. Yavushin gnats in Old French. Oh boy. Mushrainunch. Okay, next 12. Any creature that doesn't have fins and scales that's in the water, will be an abomination to you. Whoa, this sheketz is really coming up. Rashi in 12, anything that does not have what it's coming to say seemingly is repetitive. We just finished saying this. You can let Michael in or Michelle. What does it mean? One might think, that I know that nothing to be permitted, except that which it brings up signs of purity to the dry land, which retains its fins and scales after it's been taken out of the water. But if it sheds them in the water, where do I know that they are nonetheless permitted? Talmud Loimar, that's what our verse is coming to say over here. Anything that does not have fins and scales in the water, but if there were fins and scales in the water, right? So even though they shed them in the emergence out of the water, muta, they are permitted. So this verse is coming to say, it needs fins and scales in the water, right? That's what the verse is saying. In other words, if you took it out of the water and it shed it, it's kosher. Okay?
There is a fish that sheds its scales in the water. It's a swordfish, which is not kosher because of that.
Because in the water, it needs the fins and scales. Exactly.
If there's a part of its life that has scales, a part of its life that doesn't have scales.
Right. Right. No, because it needs it in the water, meaning at all times in the water. That means at all times in the water.
So even later on.
But not if it sheds it out of the water. That's exactly the point. In the water, it needs to have it. So if it sheds it at some point, it means it doesn't have it, right? In the water. That's what this verse is saying. So that's how we know the swordfish would not be kosher.
At the time of its life, when it does have.
No, so because there's a time that it doesn't in water,
So
right?
it's just the animal itself is not kosher.
Right. Okay, next, 13. Ves Eile, and these Tishaketsu, this should be an abomination, oif from the birds, Loye, Achelu, and you shall not eat them. Sheketim, they are a sheket, an abomination. What are they? An esher, the eagle, Paris, and the vulture, Znia, and the osprey. Rashi. In 13, lo ye'achel, you should not eat them lechayiv, to make one culpable is a maichin lektanim. It says it doesn't say lo teichlu, right? What did it say before? Lo teichlu, which means you shall not eat. Here, the lo ye'chalu, they should not be eaten. It's passive, it's reflexive. Why? To make you culpable of machil lektanim, if you give it to minors to eat. Right? Toichlu means you're eating, but what if you gave it to to a little 2-year-old to eat? Shikach mashmai, that's what the implication is. They should not be eaten by anybody. Through you. Or perhaps maybe it's coming to say another point that that it's forbidden with regard to any benefit that's not involving eating even. How would you get that if it's they should not be eaten? Talmud Loimar, the verse says that you should not eat. Therefore, we got to conclude that they are forbidden with regard to eating, but they're permitted with regard to any kind of benefit. So only eating is what is prohibited, but you can have benefit from it. Kol boy, any fowl that it says lamina. One second. Sorry.
That was true for everything that came till now also. You could have benefited also from the carcass, from whatever, right?
Seemingly, but there wasn't a limud there. Maybe that's learned a Gzeir Shava. Maybe it's a Gzeir Shava or something. But yeah, seemingly. There's no Rashi doesn't bring it, but let's see. Anyway, I would assume that that's how it's learned, but Rashi doesn't bring it in Pshuta Shemikra so far. Kol oif shenemar by any fowl that it says lemina to its kind in the feminine, lemina to its kind in the masculine, or lemineu to its kind in another form of masculine. Yesh ba'isan amin has within those species subspecies she'ein daimin zelezeh that are not similar to each other. Neither in their appearance or in their names. Yet they are all of one species. Okay. Okay, and right. So why is it saying to its species? Because there might not be an appearance. We don't have that previously, right? Because previously it seems that only in fowl that you can have one species and you can have many subspecies, but they may not be similar to them in appearance in different ways. And therefore, nonetheless, it's part of that species. That's why it's saying over to its species. Okay. So the kestrel and the vulture after its species. The raven after its species. The ostrich, the jay, the sparrowhawk, and the goshawk after its species. Rashi went out in Old French, a perrivier. Okay, whatever. Thank you. There's a case of the shalach, there's a yanshuf, and the owl, and the gull, and the little owl. In verse 17, Rashi, our sages explain, that this is a bird that casts fish out of mine from the water, from the sea. right? If Zeutika Munkelis translates, Shali's Nuna, the cast of out fish. Kais Vianshu, Haim, they are kutis in Old French. Talking Balila, they cry out at night. Yesh Lahem Sostois, Ba'adam, and they have cheeks like a man. The Eid Acher, and another one, Daimalai, similar to it. Shikayin Yavai. It's called Yavai. Okay. 18. Vesatin Shemes, Vesaka'a, Vesar Cham. So the bat, the starling, and the magpie. Oh boy. Definitely don't want to eat these things. Just don't sound good. Hakol ba sheritz, v'deimela achbar. It's similar to a mouse, the bat. Parachas balayla, and it flies at night. V'tin shemes ha'amura b'yishrotzim. And this is mentioned among creepy crawling things. The deimela. It's similar to it. Ve'ein la einaim, and it has no eyes, and it's called talpe in Old French. 19. Vesachisida, and the stork. It's called a chasida. The arnafa, and the heron, lemina. There's a duchfis, fas, or duchifas. There's a tal. No, it's not. Let's see Rashi 19. Chasida. Why is it called a chasida? Zu daya levana. This is a white daya in Old French. Sigorn. Lama nikra shma chasida. Why is it called a chasida, which means a kind one? Shaisa chasida, because it does kindness im seha with its companions, when it comes to food. Nafa. He daya ragzanis. It's a hot-tempered daya. Near Ali, and it appears to me, she in law, and it's called a heron. Aduch chifas, tarnagol habar, it's a wild rooster. Kefula, its comb is doubled over. And in Old French, hura. Why is its name duchifas? Shahide kafus, because its splendor is tied. Zuhi karbalotai, and this is its splendor, is its comb. Yeah, the NBC. That's NBC. Is the rooster with its colored, right? It's called the cutter of a mountain, and all right. Al Shem Ma'asav, based on its deeds, as our sages explain from Masechtas Gittin, the Perek Mish. Okay, let's continue.
So what's important over here is to know that unlike fish and animals, fowl do not have any signs.
Right, exactly. And therefore we have all the finer,
Right.
all the details, right? All the categories, all the different types, yeah.
Although the Gemara brings many different kind of things that would make something, a bird, not kosher, right? But does not specify which
Okay.
times would make it kosher.
Yeah.
So a bird that has a round egg, it's not kosher.
Okay, I want to finish, so I'm sorry to, yeah, because we got a lot to do here. Kol sheret ha'oif, all insect flying, ha'hoylech arba, that goes on 4, sheketu lachem, it is an abomination for you. Rashi in 20, sheret ha'oif, so it's a flying, creeping creature. Adakim hanemuchim, they're tiny, low-lying things. Arochashim ala aretz, they creep on the earth. Kegoin zvuvim, like flies. It's irim and wasp, yatushim and mosquitoes, chagavim and grasshoppers. Grasshoppers are kosher. All right, okay, let's see. However, as zeh teichlu, these you can eat. Mikol sheretz, from all the creeping, crawling ha'oif of flying things. Hal haylech al arba, they go on for asher loy karayim, that it has karayim, which is jointed leg-like, mimal leraglav, that are extensions from their legs, lenater bahem ala aretz, that they can hop on the ground. Let's see, Rashi. Need Rashi for this one. I mean, for all of them, but al arba on all four, al arba raglaim on all four legs, mimal leraglav, above its legs, samuch letzavare, near its neck, yesh le kimin shtei raglaim. It has two legs of a sort, levad arba ragla, besides its four legs. When it wants to fly, the leak points between arts and jump from the ground, it exerts its strength through the two jumping legs, and it flies. And there are many such insects, lenagusta. But we're not experts in these, and to determine which one is, kosher. Because there are four signs of purity concerning them. Arba raglaim, they have to have four legs. Arba kanafim, and four wings. The karsulin, and they have joints. Ela kroyim aksuvim kan, and which are the jumping legs that it says over here. Ukanaf chayfim al ruboy, and its wings must cover most of its body. And all these four signs have to be found in this creeper crawler. And those grasshoppers that are among us. And there's many species of grasshoppers, right? So that's why I mentioned grasshoppers before, that it's not kosher, because you do have a certain type of grasshopper that is kosher with these four signs that we just mentioned, right? So we do find them amongst us. But there are those among them, some whose head is long. And there are among them that don't have a tail. And its name must be a chagav. And in this particular point, we don't know how to distinguish between them. And between the long-headed and the tailed grasshoppers that are called chagav and those that are not, we don't know. 22. From these you can eat. It's a arbe. The arbe, which is a red locust, leminei, leminehu, and the yellow locust and their species, v'vachargol, and the spotted gray ones, the minehu, chagav, the minehu, and the white locust, which Rashi just mentions, the chagav, and its species. However, any flying insect that has four legs is an abomination to you. 23 in Rashi. Every flying, creeping, this comes to teach us, if it has five legs, tahor, it's pure. Because we already said that it had to have four legs, right? That was in the previous pasuk that Rashi pointed out to us. So why is it coming here to give us a prohibition against the four-legged?
It has only four legs, but doesn't have
right.
Doesn't have the spring legs, the extra two of jumping legs.
Yeah. Okay, 24. And for these, titalmu, you will become unclean, impure. And anybody who touches them will become impure with their dead bodies of these grasshoppers. Ada arev, until nighttime. Rashi leila sidim leimor binyan lamata. You'll become unclean through those animals that are going to be enumerated below. Ula ela. And through these that are upcoming, right? Otherwise, okay, let's see. Meaning not the grasshoppers, it seems to say, right? Because a nevela is a carcass, and I guess you don't say that by a grasshopper. and you'll become impure until the evening. Yesh tuma. And when you touch them, there is impurity. And anybody who carries this carcass, not only, but before we said touching, now it's carrying, right? Will become yichabetz bigadav. He has to immerse his garments. V'tamei adarav, and is impure until nightfall. Anytime the Torah tells us by carrying, right? Before we only mentioned before touching, right? When it came to an animal carcass. Now it's talking about carrying, right? That you become unclean. It is more stringent than from touching. More so. Shihi to una akibus begadim, because why do you say it here? You have to cleanse you have to take your clothes to the mikveh too. It didn't say that before by the carcass of an animal when you touched it only, right? Carrying is more impure. 26. So now what are we talking about? That when you carry it or you touched it, that you're impure until the nighttime, meaning you have to go to the mikvah and then become impure. And if you carry it, that you have your clothes also impure. Talking about an animal, talking about an animal that has clove hoof that's not completely split, and which is bring up, but it's cod, it's unclean for you. Anyone who touches it will become unclean. Rashi in 26. Doesn't have split hooves completely. Again, gamal like a camel. That it is split on the top, but not through and through to the bottom. And it's connected at the bottom. Here the Torah is coming to teach you that a carcass of an impure animal transmits impurity. And in the topic at the end of the portion, the Torah comes to detail but an unslaughtered clean kosher animal that is also. In other words, here it's coming to tell us about an unclean one. Later it'll be even a kosher one that is a carcass, meaning it wasn't slaughtered properly, that it also makes you impure. 27. And all those that go on their kapav, on their paws. Thank you. The whole chaya, and any wild animal that goes on four to him, they are impure to you. Huh?
Their carcass.
A carcass. Anybody touches their carcass. Nevela is a carcass. Eat madariv is impure until the evening. Called kapot going like a dog, a bear, and a cat. That you become impure if you touch their carcass. Right? And someone who carries their carcass has to clean their clothes, meaning they have to be mikvid. And you're impure until the evening, and they are impure for you. And this is unclean for you. Creepy crawling. That crawls on the ground. A choyled is a weasel. Ha'akbar is a mouse. Hatzav is a toad. Limineu, according to their species. Rashi in 29. This is impure for you. Kol tumas halal. All these impurities are not a prohibition against eating, but the impurity in a literal sense. That when you touch them, you become impure with touching their carcass. As Vanessa, and it becomes forbidden as a result of the impurity transmitted by the carcass, le'achol truma, to eat truma, mikochim, and holy food, le'ikanas mikdash, and also to enter in the sanctuary. In other words, it's not speaking about here eating, right? That already we know. But here, that if you touch it, become impure, and then you can't eat holy foods. A kohen can't eat holy foods, and a regular Israelite cannot enter into the sanctuary. Huh?
Excuse me, Rabbi. In these cases of the things, the weasel, the mouse, etc., that you become impure just by touching it, even if it's not a carcass, no? Remember dog?
Yes, I'm sorry, correct.
Dog? No.
No, dog was the carcass.
The dog is a carcass. So these are impure, becoming impure from touching the living animal.
Yes.
not just the-
Yes. Yes. Achoyled, mostel. Atzav, ira. Shedaimela, it's fardeya, similar to a frog, a toad. Okay, quickly, so we can finish. And a hedgehog, a chamalon, a lizard, and a snail, and a mole. Rashi, hedgehog, here's in French, lizard is a lizard, snail, chamet, a mole is a tin shemis. Okay, and anyone who touches unclean for you among all the creeping creatures, anyone who touches them when they are dead, they're unclean until the evening. So these 8 are specified, and it's now saying, yeah, no, okay, so that's not when they're alive. It's only,
carcass.
only carcasses.
But we do learn actually that you can't touch it, the animal itself is alive, right?
Yeah, I don't,
That
but
is impure.
I don't know. We have,
Maybe not impure till the evening.
we have to look at that. Yipol alav mehem b'moisam, and any of these dead creatures that falls upon anything, the moisam yitma, it'll become impure. Mikol kli, from any vessel, 8 that is made out of wood or reged or made out of a garment, or of a hide or sack of a sack. Kol kli asher yasim malacha, any vessel, implement that you do some work with it. Bahem b'mayim, it should be Bahem, sorry, with them. B'mayim yuva, and water they have to come, meaning immersed into a mikvah. B'tamei ad arav v'tayir, and they're impure until the evening, and then they become clean. Rashi b'mayim yuva af la'achar tefillah tamei hu the truma. Even after they're immersed in, they remain unclean, coming in contact with. If they come in contact with truma, ad arav until nightfall, the toher erev v'shamish, and when the sun sets, they become clean. Okay, amazing. Okay, sorry, folks, but we're going to go straight into Tanya because we are a couple of minutes late for it. But Baruch Hashem, we got to finish.
Yes, thank